In today's lesson, I want to look at chapter 17, 18, and 19 of volume 2 of Great Expectations. Chapter 17, Pip returns to London, so he's been to the funeral of Mrs. Gargery, and he and Herbert continue to overspend, but he comes of age, which means that he is able to get his inheritance. So he goes over to see Jaggers, and Jaggers, grills him right away. Like, do you know all the debt you have? How much do you owe? Well, Pip can't account for this. He doesn't know how much he owes. He can't really account. All of his sort of accounting has been sort of a bit of marginalizing, as he says. Anyway, I was thinking about that, and do you ever find that you've spent so much money and you're like, what did I spend it on? I don't know. And I'm sure that for Pip, right, it's like that. It's like, I don't know, what did I spend it on? So anyway, Jaggers tells him that he's going to be getting £500 every year, $125 every quarter. But for, on his birthday, Jaggers gives him $500 to start with. And Jaggers will not disclose the identity of the benefactor. He won't do that. But Pip is maturing, and he decides he wants to use some of his money to help his friend Herbert. So he asks Wemmick about this. Is this a good idea? And it's just kind of want to share a little bit because it's kind of funny. So he says to him, would it be good if I were to can I put some money down? And Wemmick's like, money down? With some money down, and perhaps some anticipation of expectations, I'd be able to put some money down. And then Wemmick says, Mr. Pip, I should like just to run over with you on my fingers, if you please, the names of the various bridges up as high as Chelsea Bridge. So he names all these bridges, like actual London bridges. And Pip's like, I don't know, what are you talking about? Understand. And then Wemmick says, choose your bridge, Mr. Pip, and take a walk upon your bridge and pitch your money into the Thames over the center arch of your bridge, and you know the end of it. Serve a friend with it, and you may know the end of it too, but it's a less pleasant and profitable end. So basically saying, if you are going to use your money to help a friend, you may as well just go stand on a bridge and throw it over the Thames. Oh, okay, throw it into the Thames, I should say. So then Wemmick is Pip is, concerned, and of course Wemmick says, invest in portable property. Anyway, then Wemmick says, Mr. Pip, Walworth is one place and the office is another. Much as the aged is one person, Mr. Jaggers is another. They must not be confounded together. My Walworth sentiments must be taken at Walworth. None but my official sentiments can be taken in this office. So then he decides he's going to go and see Mr. Wemmick at Walworth, which in fact he does in chapter 18. So he goes to visit him in Walworth and find out what he says. And while he's there, it's just so sweet. He also meets Miss Skiffins, who, as it turns out, is sort of the Wemmick's love interest. But he describes Pip in his lovely descriptions. Miss Skiffins was of a wooden appearance and was, like her escort, in the post office branch of the service. She might have been some 2 or 3 years younger than Wemmick, and I judged her descent possessed of portable property. So she too has that mouth thing about her, right? That's kind of amusing. So the Walworth Wemmick thinks that, yes, this is a great idea to do. He's like, this is devilish good of you to use that money to help, oh my goodness, I'm tired, Herbert, to help Herbert to get a business. And Wemmick doesn't know how to do this. He's not a tradesperson, but Miss Skiffins' brother is an accountant and an agent, and he's going to, so they're going to kind of do this all behind the scenes, and Herbert is not to know and won't know that it has actually been at the orchestrating of, that Pip's orchestrated all of this. And at the end of the chapter, we find out that Herbert has, come into good fortune. He's really excited. He says that, somebody's done this and he's going to get a business, and so it's all good. At the end of chapter 18, this is what it says. A great event in my life. The turning point of my life now opens on my view. But before I proceed to narrate it, And before I pass on to all the changes it involved, I must give one chapter to Estella. It is not much to give to the theme that so long filled my heart. So he's telling us to prepare for something, but he first wants to spend a chapter talking about Estella. So we learn here that he's been spending a lot of time at Mrs. Brandley's in Richmond, where Estella is living, and that he witnesses all these suitors that are coming and going, and he often accompanies Estella when she goes out kind of on these dates, basically. And Estella just uses uses Pip to make them jealous. And she's not nice to them. She is kind of sort of nice to Pip, but she keeps telling him not to think about her in that way, that she can't return, that she has no affection, and also, like, I can't choose whom I can marry, it's not up to me, stop this, and Pip doesn't understand. Why is Miss Havisham not announcing their engagement? Anyway, apparently, according that he has to take her to Miss Havisham's to visit, because they're both under Miss Havisham's rule, I guess. So he takes her back to see Miss Havisham. So this is really interesting. They're sitting around, and Miss Havisham is delighted to hear about all of the havoc that Estella is wreaking on these men. She's like, she hung upon Estella's beauty, hung upon her words, hung upon her gestures, etc. And then she says, "How does she use you, Pip? How does she use you?" She asked me again with her witch-like eagerness, even in Estella's hearing. But when we sat by her flickering fire at night, she was most weird. For then, isn't that funny that Dickens uses weird? For then, keeping Estella's hand drawn through her arm and clutched in her own hand, she extorted from her, by dint of referring back to what Estella had told her in her regular letters, the names and conditions of the men whom she had fascinated. And as Miss Havisham dwelt upon this role, with the intensity of a mind mortally hurt and diseased, she sat with her other hand on her crutch stick, etc. Okay. Then this is, Pip finally gets it. I saw in this, wretched though it made me, and bitter the sense of dependence and even of degradation that it awakened, I saw in this that Estella was set to wreak Miss Havisham's revenge on men, and that she was not to be given to me until she had gratified it for a term. Miss Havisham sent her with a malicious assurance that she was beyond the reach of all admirers, etc. So he gets it. Whoa, you mean Miss Havisham, is using Estella to get back at men because one man has hurt Miss Havisham. But Pip continues to believe that he is meant to marry Estella. Then in this chapter, there's also this whole fight between, Miss Havisham says to Estella, "Speak the truth, you ingrate." And Estella is kind of cold to her, and she says, "I am what you have made me. Take all the praise, take all the blame, take all the success, take all the failure. In short, take me." And she says, "And if you ask me to give you which you never gave me, my gratitude and duty cannot do impossibilities." Like, she's just saying, you never showed me love. You never showed gratitude. You never showed any of these things. How can you expect that I have them? How can you expect that I can show this to you? And she says, I have never shown any weakness that I can charge myself with. And that was a big thing for Miss Havisham, that you do not show weakness. So, yeah, it's really sad, very sad. Then we have the unfortunate news. Page 281, Pip describes it like this: "It is impossible to turn this leaf of my life without putting Bentley Drummle's name upon it, or I would very gladly." And what do we find out? We find out that Bentley Drummle is courting Estella. And when Pip confronts Estella about this and says, "This is not a good person, you should not be with this person," she just laughs and whatever. So it's really sad. Okay, the end of this chapter, I'm going to read a little bit here. And now that I have given the one chapter to the theme that so filled my heart and so often made it ache and ache again, I pass on, unhindered, to the event that had impended over me longer yet. The event that had begun to be prepared for before I knew that the world held Estella, and in the days when her baby intelligence was receiving its first distortions from Miss Havisham's wasting hands. What is he talking about? Some event that's even been happening or planned since before even he knew Estella. What's going on? We don't know. Then he also describes what it is as though a heavy slave that was to fall on the bed of state in the flush of conquest was slowly wrought out of the quarry. Basically, he's just saying that he's about to be struck a very great blow and that the roof is about to collapse. Whoa, that's setting us up for chapter 20. Stay tuned.